So there's a study. It investigated ambulance rates in 766 cities from 43 different states. And once they took into account timelines when Uber entered each city, researchers found the app reduced per capita ambulance usage rates by around 7%. What was happening is instead of calling an ambulance due to the potential high costs, sometimes thousands of dollars, people were literally using their rideshare app, having the driver come pick them up and drop them off in the ER. So in some ways, I think it's genius. In some ways, I think it's dangerous. I think it depends on the scenario.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, as an ER doc, you know that certain emergency conditions, what you do in the first minutes, whether it's oxygen, whether it's fluids, whether you had a stroke and you're administering medication, all of those, what you do initially could
it can save your life. Yeah. Plus, the other side of this coin, I feel bad for the drivers. Look, if you have a gunshot wound and your driver picks you up and you're in the back seat dying, I mean, it does put them in a tough spot. So obviously, there could be a scenario where, let's call it a non-emergency.
Yes.
Where, let's just say you sprain your ankle.
Yeah.
You think it may be broken, but you can hobble around. You're not in such pain that you need immediate ambulance there to give you medication. It would be okay to have a rideshare service, and it's always smart to never drive yourself to the ER because the medicines we give you there may prevent you from driving home. But my big concern is this, is if you're in a situation where you truly need emergency care, there may be a chance that an Uber or Lyft driver gets there quicker. And you know exactly when they're showing up when you pull the app out. But the emergency response system is so adept at the minute they get to your door, their ability to treat things like stroke,
diagnose,
heart attack. It's not always people bleeding out. If you have chest pain and you call an Uber driver, well, I'm sorry, if you're having a heart attack, they're not going to be able to help.
Nita, have you had any of your patients going into labor that elect to take an Uber or a Lyft? Probably.
Yeah. If it's early labor, I mean, you're just contracting. Otherwise,
which is okay because early labor, people will often drive themselves, and there's
the husband, and the husband may be freaked. So getting car service.
Here's my take on it. If you were going to go to the ER and you were going to drive yourself, or your spouse was going to drive you, then it's probably okay to take a rideshare because you aren't going to use EMS either way. But if you're thinking about calling 911 because you think you're having a stroke and you're like, oh well, Lyft is only 4 minutes away, I'll just use Lyft. No. When you show up, if you have a truly life-threatening condition, the main reason to take an ambulance is if you show up using a ride-sharing service, you're going to go into the waiting room, hang out. You could be having a heart attack, a stroke. You could be dying. And the reality is you're not going to be seen by a doctor in time to save your life.
That's true. I've seen people in the emergency room who came via a private vehicle, and they will actually call an ambulance from the waiting room to pick them up so they can be seen. Don't do that. I don't think it was necessarily a smart thing. It's just something I've seen. But also, one of the pros is you can pick which hospital you're going to, because if an ambulance comes to pick you up, then they're going to take you to the nearest hospital. And if it's not emergent and you get an Uber, then you can tell them take me to a specific hospital. But I will also say, make sure you look at the Uber rating, because you don't want an Uber driver with a poor rating if you're already not feeling well. Because yesterday, true story, I was talking to somebody and they said that their ride-sharing app person picked them up and they were perfectly normal, and then they just flipped out on them. So you don't want that to happen if you're in an emergency.
And just remember, if you're sick and you mess up that car, you're going to get a cleaning fee.
That's true.
So positives and negatives to this, obviously, as in all scenarios, this is using your judgment.